Hello, today we're going to go from this to this, step by step. So first thing we need to do is open it up. Oh, and before we even do that, let's talk about pictures that you should do this with. You can do it with any picture, but some are going to be more difficult. If I were to try and use this picture, this is a lovely picture, beautiful colors in it, lots of light, a good focus on the eye, totally a fun picture, but there's a ton of detail in it. All of this detail in the hair and all of these freckles and the detail in the sweater will take you a long time to do it. So you could definitely do it, but just be aware, the more detailed it is, the more time it's going to take you. So I'm going to pick a slightly less detailed picture. Now this picture does have tons of details, but most of those details are the flowers in the background, and I'm going to concentrate on the face. And if you look at the face, it's very smooth. It's only a few colors relatively compared to the other one. So we're going to start with this. I don't want to draw on this layer. I want to make sure I don't. So I'm going to go to that background layer and I'm going to click the lock. And now it is locked and I can't accidentally draw on it. We're going to just do this one piece at a time. We're going to select a section. We're going to fill it. We're going to select a section. We're going to fill it. There are other ways to do it. This is just one way. So I'm going to go over to the Lasso tool and I'm going to pick the polygonal lasso. So I'm ready to select areas. And now I got to decide what piece I'm going to do first. So I'm going to do the skin. Skin's actually got two different colors. You can see there's a piece where there's lots of light and most of it has got shadow. But I'm going to do the light part first. So I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to call it just skin because it's got light on it. Now I'm going to take the polygonal lasso to polygonal lasso tool, either one. And I'm going to select and make sure I get all of the spaces where there is light on her face. And I'm not even going to be careful about it because there's stuff all around it that's going to cover it up. So there's some light up here, so we'll go around that. There's some light here, we'll go around that. Some light there, some light right there. I even went off the picture, it doesn't matter. And then over here, I don't care because this is all going to get done. So that's a big chunk. And I want to fill that in with her skin color. So I need to sample this skin color. And you do that with the eyedropper. So you pick the eyedropper. And you notice at the top it has this thing that says sample size. If you pick 1 by 1, it does the exact pixel you click on. So you might happen to get one that's darker or lighter than the rest of it. And it might not look like what you want. The larger ones, if you do 3 by 3, it looks at a grid of 9 pixels and it gets the average of them. And that'll be closer. 5 by 5, even bigger, 11 by 11, 31 by 31. The problem you start having as you get with these bigger sizes is it's hard to localize the area you're sampling. Here we could probably even do all the way down to that 31 by 31 because the picture's big enough. But I usually don't go bigger than 5 by 5. So I pick 5 by 5 and I'm going to click inside here. And you'll notice that now the color of has been selected that matches this, sort of. It's not going to be exact because this is many different colors in here, but it's close enough. So we're going to fill it in. We could do edit and fill with the foreground color. And it's filled in. And then I'm going to press Control D to deselect. And you'll notice that doesn't look much like anything yet because that's just a background that we're using. We're going to fill it in with more. Now I'm going to hide that. And so I don't accidentally draw on that, I'm going to lock that one as well. I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to do the shadows. When I do the shadow here on her face, because it's got an exact line here, I do want to try and match that. So I'm going to call this skin shadow. And I'm going to go back to the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to follow around on her face pretty carefully. Matching the line and matching over here. I don't have to be exact, but I do want to get close. And we'll do like this across the lip. And we'll come down like this. And for now, we'll go over like this. And then on this side, doesn't matter. And I do have some spaces over here that are also in shadow that I would also like to get. So I'm going to add them in. And the way you do it to add is you go up here and you select the add to mask and the unite, they call it here. And now every time I add something, it'll be added into this mask. That shadow goes right across her lips. So we can do that. Same thing over here. Now, right here, it's a fade. There isn't a direct line, so I just have to kind of guess. Won't be exact. And then around the cheek. And then around the earlobe, because that part's going to be shown. And we'll fill that in. And there's a shortcut you can use, by the way. Oh, before we fill it in, we got to select the color. So I could go up here and click the eyedropper to select it like I did before, but there's a shortcut, a key command, the letter I. Tap that letter I, and it switched me over to that automatically. Now I can click inside somewhere where there's shadow. And there's another key command you can use to fill in. So you don't have to go up here to edit and fill and foreground and OK. That's a lot of steps. You can just press Alt and backspace and it'll fill it in. And you could tell when I filled it in, it doesn't really match the color. It's lighter, but it's starting to work. So now we've got the edge of the face. We've got the skin. Let's do some of the features on the face. Let's do this eyebrow. So we'll call that left eyebrow. I'll just say left brow. You don't need the word eye. We don't have any other kind of brows here. Then I want to get this lasso tool. I can click it, or I can press the letter L, and it'll switch to whatever the last lasso tool you used was. I'm going to get a little bit closer here. Control and plus lets me zoom in. Follow around the eye, brow. And you'll see there are hairs on the outside that I didn't get. And there's also a lot of this that doesn't actually have eyebrow in it. But I'm going to fill it in all with a solid. To kind of balance that, when I do the eyedropper, I press the letter I for that, I'm going to sample from somewhere in here where it's a little lighter. And then I'll fill it in. That might look very light to you. It does to me. Let's see how it looks on the skin, though. You can see it's showing up, and it works. But if you don't like it, and I think it could be a little darker, I'm going to turn it off for a second. I'm going to resample. I'm going to pick a darker spot, and we'll try that. Looks like. Yeah, I think that works a little better. Now we'll do the same thing on the right brow. We'll L for the lasso, follow around it. I for the eyedropper, grab somewhere where it's dark, fill it in. Oops, I did that on the left brow layer. Shame on me. But it might work because they're so separate. Oh, look what I did. Because I hadn't deselected the other part, it filled both sides. So I'm going to press Control Z and go backward until I haven't selected and do it on a new layer. And I want to not be selecting this at all anymore. I could just switch to the normal replace tool and that'll do it for now. So it still looks like it's outlined over there, but when I finish like that, you see that one disappeared. And we'll call this one right brow. And we'll fill it in. And let's see what that looks like now. You can see the face is starting to show up. Not perfect yet. We'll get there. Won't be perfect ever, because perfect is impossible. Okay, let's put some details in now. The eyes. People, when they do the eyes, they have this thing that they like to do where they trace all the way around the entire eye and fill it in. But look down here. There's no black line here. It just kind of changes color. There's some black from the eyelashes, and there's black up here where it's thicker. But down here, it's very light, almost the color of the skin. So we definitely don't want to put the full circle all the way around. Let's do the pupil first. So this would be the left pupil. So we'll make a new layer, and we will call it left pupil. And let's circle around it. And I'm going to be pretty careful here because I don't want to go over the skin part. So we're going to follow around this piece. We're going to follow where the line is of the eye, the pupil. And I realize there's a little reflection there in the eye, but I'm going to leave it for now and not worry about it. And eye to sample the eye. Eye. And then we'll fill it in. That's creepy looking. We have to do the iris in the center. So let's do that. We'll make a new layer. We'll call this left iris. And we'll deselect so that it'll let us do it. And we'll go inside here. Oops. Still on the eyedropper. I want the lasso. I'm going to lasso around that. And I already sampled the color so I can fill it in. Alt-backspace. And you'll see it's filling it in. Now, I forgot to do the white of the eye. You might, but that's not a big deal. We can just do it now. I need it to be underneath the pupil and the iris. So I'm going to go to the right brow because that's underneath it. I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to call it left white. Left eye white. I don't know what it is. There's some other white bit. Left eye white. You might be tempted to fill this in with white, actual white, but this is not white. This is sort of grayish and pinkish. So we're going to go inside here. I don't have to be super careful, but I do want to be underneath what's there. And this is not so important because we're going to cover it up. The more careful you are with this, by the way, the better it will look. So go to the eye for the eyedropper, click inside, grab that color, and look, you can see, if you look at the foreground and background colors, that one is white and one is very gray. So when I fill it in, it's starting to look like an eye. It still looks creepy right now, though, if you look at it. Let's zoom out. It's not looking much like the face yet because we don't have any of the pattern around the eye. We just have the shape of itself. So let's zoom in. Hold down the space bar, and when I do that, it gives me a little hand that lets me click and drag. Then we'll turn all these things off so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to do the lashes. I'm just going to put left lash. And because they're not really overlapping each other, I know I can put them on the same layer. So let's do that. Let's go to picture and go to the lasso tool. Oh, and I accidentally kept pressing the L and it was switching through the different ones. So I'm going to go to the one I want, which is that polygonal or polygonal. For this top part, I'm going to follow along where that dark part is. And I'm going to go like this. Can you see I'm not really following the eyelash? I'm just kind of going where I see things sticking out. But it's definitely thicker than the one that was there. There's some little lashes up here. And then I want to fill that in. So I get the eyedropper, grab some color from over there, fill it in, Alt-backspace. Let's look now at what that eye looks like. Can you see how just adding those lashes in makes the eye look more like an eye? Okay. And when we do the bottom part of the lashes, I'm going to do it on the same layer. When we do the bottom part of the lashes, we're going to be very imprecise. We're just going to put some little pieces in. So I picked a little piece and I did Alt-backspace to fill it in. I'm going to do that a few times. I'll probably speed this up. Oops, I did it twice. Did you see those big brown blobs that just appeared? That was me not actually selecting anything. And then when I filled, because there was no selection, it filled the entire image. It happens sometimes if you try and click very close to where you clicked originally, it won't know that it's a separate piece. These are just basically little triangles. This one looks terrible, so I'm going to get rid of it, or part of it anyway, by selecting around it and pressing backspace to delete it. Okay, let's see how that looks. See, looking like an eye. I could go down in here further and make this a little pinker, but I think I'm going to let that go for now. Now, the more detailed you are, the better this will look. So like you can see the lid of her eye has a shape, and down here there's a shadow. So I'm going to call this left eye details. And they're underneath the shadow, the lid for the most part, underneath the lashes. So I'm going to put it underneath the lashes. And actually, I'm going to put it completely under this eye, all the pieces of the eye. Because that way, if I overlap, it doesn't make any difference. It'll be hidden behind. So now I'm going to quickly select some spots to make this. And I'm going to speed it up. And you can see I went right over the eye. It doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up. And I'm not on any particular shape here. I just kind of guessed where the color changed. If you do it too big, it's going to look really dark and harsh. And I think I did that. If you do it too small, it won't look like it's a highlight. But we're going to try it. So I'm going to get the eye for the eyedropper. I'm going to sample somewhere in here. And I'm going to fill it in. And I filled in this line over here too. So let's see how it looks with everything on now. Oops. Did I put it underneath the skin? Oh, I turned it off. Die. Okay. Now, you can see it's starting to look like the eye. It also is very dark. Maybe too dark for what we're doing. So I'm going to just be lazy. I could recolor it, but I could also just turn the opacity down, so we see through it a little bit. That's pretty good. So you can see that's what it takes to do the eye. I'm going to do the same thing now for the rest of the face, and I'm going to speed this way up so you don't have to watch me doing it. But the important thing is take your time. You go way fast right now, and it's going to fool you into thinking it's going faster. It's not. It takes a long time. Take your time with it. So let's do it. Okay, I want you to look at these lips. You look at them up close. They look wacky. They are goofy. But when you look at them in the whole picture, you can see the shadows work, and it's an effective tool. It may not always work, but a lot of times things that look just crazy when you're doing them up close, like this, it looks terrible up close. But when you look at it from far away, you can see the shadows in it. Okay, so don't worry if it doesn't look like you expect it to look. Finish it and let it go. All right, I'm going to speed up again. And I'm thinking I'm not even going to do this eye. It's in the shadows, and you'll see if we do this, it kind of blends. I just need to make this shadow darker. So I'm going to go to that skin shadow, and I'm going to change the hue and saturation and lightness, and I'm going to bring it way down. And you can see that makes it blend in a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the hair. When I do the hair, let's look at it. You can see the hair just sort of blends into this other stuff around here. So as long as we get this edge and this edge right, it'll work. So go to the very top, make a new layer for the hair. Hair it is. And get that lasso tool, lasso around it. And then we'll get that color, which I probably could just use black, but we're going to sample it just to be consistent. There you go. Let's turn everything else back on. And you can see it's really starting to look like her. There's all this stuff around here, though, that makes it so it doesn't work. I might actually draw that eye. No, I'm not going to. I've decided we're going with it. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to change the shadow on the face a little bit. I'm going to leave this shadow, this side, the same color, but I want to change this. And this is why you should do everything on its own layer. Because right now, because this is the same layer, if I adjust it, it adjusts both of them. And it's too dark. And I don't want it on that dark on that side. So instead, I'm going to take that shadow and I'm going to go for the select tool. I'm going to select around the part that I want to change, which is everything on this side. And now if I do the highlight and hue and saturation, excuse me, I can lower just that side. There we go. Oh, that's pretty good, except we have a couple weird things. We've got this big chunk here that I didn't fill in, and then we can't really see the edge of the hair. So I could be super lazy. I could just take the hair and I could grab this and I could fill that in the same way. And I could say, I'm done. But all of those colors around it were very cool. And I'd kind of like to have some version of them. So I'm going to turn off the hair and turn off everything else. And I'm not going to worry too much about getting it right. I'm just going to make the flowers around it. So I'm going to make a layer called flowers. And we'll do the white ones first. Doesn't really matter. Ones. And we'll go to the lasso tool. And I'm not even going to be careful here because this would take way too long. Select that piece, get the eyedropper, pick some of that, fill it in. Do the same thing for the other ones. I'm going to go really fast. Oops, lasso tool. And I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch me carefully circle these. Okay, pretty good. It's a little dark, but I think it works. I think I would like this section of white flowers right here to be brighter. So I'm going to be super lazy. I'm going to go for the quick selection tool. And I'm going to go onto the white flowers layer when it'll let me. And I'm going to just click in there. Yes, finish your image analysis. Smart thing. I'll click in there. And it grabbed it. And then I can just adjust the hue and saturation and make it what I want it to be. That's pretty good. But now I've got my basic face done. If I wanted to do more with it, I could. I could go through and change any one of these colors individually. So I could say, oh, you know what? I want the red flowers to be purple or blue or something. I could do that like just the same way. Go on the layer and go hue and saturation and just change the color, whatever I want. I could do that for any piece that's on there, that's as long as it's separate. But I could also go down and pick an adjustment layer, the little circle that's half white, half black, and I could pick hue and saturation. When you do that, it puts a layer on top that adjusts all of the layers underneath. So I could say, you know what, I want this to be black and whitish. So I'll drag the saturation all the way down. Now it's all black and white. I want the colors to be super saturated. So I can crank them up. I want to change the colors. I could go through and rotate and pick different ones. So many different ones. And you know what? Actually, I think it looks really cool like that. So that is where we're going to stop with this. Oops. Let me close this. Why won't you close? Oh, right there. Nope. Right there. There we go. Okay. So that's one way to do this. And you can see that just for this, which I did pretty quickly and left a lot out, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 layers. That might seem like a lot of layers, but when you do yours, if you're careful about it, you could have way more layers than that. Also, I used the polygonal lasso tool. One day I'll learn how to pronounce that to do this, and it's giving me these very sharp edges, like I talked about before. If you don't want that, you could do it with the brush, but the brush is much more difficult to use. I'll do one really quick with the brush, and then, but I won't walk you through doing everything, and you can see what the difference is. You know what? I don't think this is coming out well at all. We're going to finish a little bit here. Kind of give you the feel of it. Now, some people are awesome at this. There are people in the class who are awesome at it. I am not awesome at it. And so mine tend to look like what scientists call doo-doo. It takes a lot more precision, a lot more skill, way more than I have. The lasso tool, the polygon, is much more forgiving. You'll see when I turn on these layers. You get a look, and it's happening. And if I kept going, you could see where it would go more. But if you compare that to, let's do this. Let's turn these all on. And let's put those all in a group so we can turn them on and off at once. And let's put these all in a group so we can turn them all on and off at once. Okay. So you can see more detail, but sharper. So less natural looking. The other tool, using the brush, it'll work, but it takes a lot of patience and a lot of precision. You can also combine the two. You could draw the face and then use the lasso tool in the background, or draw part of the face and use the lasso for the other part of the face, or use one of the other tools. There are many, many different ways to do this. So I'm just showing you one way, really. Okay. All right. That's it. Wow.